Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country and around the world, summer's now really here. And in response, I'm bringing the fire. I am bringing one of our most popular guests of all time, a voice of clarity, reason, power, humor, humility, just awesome. One of my favorite people to talk to about anything, but especially about the news of the world. The great and powerful Ron Perlman is finally back on Independent Americans. Welcome back, sir.
So thrilled to be with you, Paul, as always, and just hoping to live up to a fraction of that magnificent introduction.
Well, first of all, I just want to say, for folks watching on video, you should definitely watch on video. Ron's got some beautiful. Are they literally rose-colored sunglasses, Ron? They look like rose.
They're actually readers. They look like sunglasses, but they're readers, and they can be yours for just a whopping $1,275. My wife found these designer readers, and I said, "Why should you have those when I don't?" So I rectified.
Well, I feel like we need to see the world through rose-colored glasses right now. That's why.
And they're also rose-colored glasses. So I know we're going to get into some stuff. So I'm trying to give myself at least some semblance of positivity here.
And you've got a horizontal shot here, sorry, a vertical shot with black parts on the side, which is your preferred shot here as a very highly respected and established actor. I want to make sure this shot is to your liking.
No, I love the shot, and I love the black parts on the side. We'll bring the gray, I hope, but you'll never appreciate the gray unless you have a little black and white in your life.
I love it, man. I love it. A lot to get into. I want to talk about the Trump madness. I want to talk about what's going on in America. I want to talk about Transformers, which is the biggest film in the world. I want to, of course, just kind of give you the ball and let you run with it. But first of all, I got to thank you, man, because last week you were extremely generous in the way you always are, that many folks may not know, but you're a generous and kind and giving person. And you very graciously invited me and my little crew and my son to come join you for the Transformers premiere in Flatbush, Brooklyn, which was fucking bonkers.
Yeah. And it was a delight to have you and Ryder there. I hope I'm not giving away too much by naming one of your offspring, but I had a great time. It's great to celebrate anything that one gets to as an accomplishment. Because I'm at that point where I'm really, really grateful for the fact that I'm still in the game. I have so much great stuff to think back on, and it's so much of it is just a pure matter of good fortune. And so when you can, and when you got people like you expressed at some point some sort of you and your crew, some sort of like real love for Transformers. I said, my God, this is too good to be true. Here I am, without a +1 in New York City for this magnificent premiere. Who better to be at my side than the great Paul Rieckhoff and crew?
Well, it was a memory that we will have forever. I mean, the film has this like core in Brooklyn, and it's happening in 1994, which is the year after I graduated high school. It has the best soundtrack that I've heard since like Pulp Fiction, which I thought had this amazing soundtrack, but this like incredible late 90s New York City hip hop soundtrack. It's in Flatbush, and my 7-year-old son, I think this was the first PG-13 movie he ever went to in his life. And a couple of moments, he was a little scared. It was intense. And I said to him, don't worry, Optimus Primal is right next to us. Ron is right next to us. But you heard him scream a couple times because it's such a fun film, man.
They were good screams. They were the right kind of screams. And, wow, first ever PG-13 movie, and having like two G's, who have his back right there. I mean, I remember first time I screamed in the movie theater, and thank God my dad was right alongside me because I knew he could handle whatever came. And that's a great feeling to have when you're in that space where like I'm not so sure about this. I'm not sure I can handle this, Pop. Um, yeah, you got it. You got it,
Yeah,
kid.
but it was really cool, and to have it in Brooklyn with so many people from the community there to celebrate the culture and celebrate the film, and there's these great Transformer moments like when Bumblebee first comes on screen, and the whole crowd just erupts, like thousands of people going crazy. And we brought my friend Martin Snow, who's from Flatbush, Brooklyn. He's a great boxing teacher. Brought two of my other friends, Jason and Jackson, who are working in film and acting in Brooklyn, and they were so inspired to be around you. But can you talk about, this film is huge, right? It's the biggest film on the planet. We got to meet Peter Dinklage, which was a great honor. You got Pete Davidson in it. You got this really fun and dynamic cast. But can you talk about just the magnitude of this project and what you've seen so far out there talking about it?
Full disclosure, first Transformers movie I have ever seen. So, very auspicious way to enter into the franchise to actually, be the one on the poster with the green eyes. But I didn't know what to expect. When you do these things, when you're a voice in a movie that's partially animated, partially live action, but you're just doing voice work, you're coming in completely solo in a series of contributions that you have no idea what it's going to add up to because you're only seeing piecemeal. And then there's that big night, and you don't know whether you're going to be invited. You don't know whether your part is commensurate with an actual invitation, where they actually fly you across the country and send a limo for you and all the stuff that actually happened. And then said, by the way, who's your guest list? And I go, really? I can bring friends. I mean, it was like, so I was experiencing this on a fanboy level, as well as on like curious, like, what is this going to mean to my overall body of work? And I couldn't believe how good the movie was. I couldn't believe how good everybody's performance was. I couldn't believe how seamless the CGI work was, from transforming these at one minute you're in a vehicle and another minute you're a superhero, and how seamless those transitions were, and how deft everyone was with taking the state of the art of what's available in cinema, part of which I rail against, because I'm a guy who basically is a John Ford guy who kind of like has an ambivalence about how much technology has kind of come in to put its finger on the scale of how we explore our humanity. And here I am, in the quintessential state of the art, like up to the minute. There's nothing you can do on film that this movie doesn't do. And it really delivers, and it really works, and it really maintains the humanity of the story and the plight of these kind of like, couple of little mortals who are just a couple of, brats from Brooklyn who are up against, the idea of saving mankind, and how they, you're not manipulated into thinking they rise to the occasion. They actually organically do. And I was watching this next to you for the first time and experiencing all of this. And I'm telling you, man, I'm really proud to be part of this franchise now. I'm really proud to be in this particular film. People's performances blew me away, from top to bottom, whether it was the voice performance of like a Pete Davidson or Peter Dinklage, or Anthony Ramos and Dominique, who are handling the live action portion of it. So thrilling evening, and a great, like, feel like real feather in my cap.
Well, you picked the right one, man. This is my favorite one. I think it's a lot of people's favorite one. And you've played a lot of characters that have kind of risen to the moment. And I want to talk about the character that you're the voice of, Optimus Primal, because we were introduced to the Maximals, which are like these animals that came before the Autobots, and initially there's conflict, but now it's like you're the maximal version of Optimus Prime, who everybody knows from the franchise, but you're like the ultimate good guy. I mean, you're the wise old Optimus Primal who leads this group in saving the world. But you've been a part of Hellboy, you've been a part of Sons of Anarchy, you've been a part of stuff with a very deep following, and to see the following around this film merge with you, I think is really exciting, because one of the coolest parts, and I think I told you that night, was we went to an after party and I carried my sleeping 7-year-old to a fancy Manhattan after party. But the fans interacting with you, all kinds of people, and I actually want to talk about this in a larger political perspective in a minute, but you get love from very deep and dedicated audiences that are very diverse. And this film has got two great young actors who are not white, who are from Brooklyn, who are kind of leading this charge for humanity. But Optimus Primal, I mean, this has got to be one of the coolest characters you've played in a long string of very cool characters.
And it was very much a surprise to me as to when I first got the call to appear in this. I think it was because they wanted to introduce the idea of these Maximals in a kind of a minor key into this film. And they knew that I had at one point, I hadn't remembered this, but they knew that at one point I had played Optimus Primal in some sort of either Saturday morning cartoon or web series version of Transformers. There's a lot of iterations along the way. And so, let's see if Ron wants to do this. It was a really small role. So what I was blown away by is how heroic and how consequential the character is in this particular story of like, and you pointed this out while we were watching it, because it was like, the overall running theme of the film is we're all in this together or we're all in this separately. I just did a movie with Matt Damon where I play the mayor of Boston, and he quotes Benjamin Franklin, says, we either hang together or we will most assuredly hang separately. Mm-hmm. And if there's ever a kind of a study in the fact that you have all of these diverse worlds who all have their separate agendas and who all have their own kind of mantras of what survival looks like and what the dominance that one needs in order to maintain survival looks like, realizing that there's this common thread that we better put our differences aside because otherwise it will obliterate all of us. This is what this movie kind of does. And, it's a metaphor for so many of the things that you on this show, your brilliant show, aspires to addressing, which is we are supposedly e pluribus unum. We are supposedly the United States of America. How do we inch closer to that aspiration, to that promise that has never been kind of fully realized? And anytime you get a piece of culture that addresses that, but addresses it in a way that's subtle, where you don't feel like you're being handed a tablespoon of medicine, but you feel like you're being handed a tremendous amount of entertainment value, but you're still getting the message along the way. You have to be grateful for that. And I've been in the game long enough to know the difference between what's a manipulation and what's something that's organically, beautifully rendered.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this a bit afterward, that there's kind of this storyline that I think is in some ways reflective of America right now. You've got this looming imminent threat that is Omicron and this evil Scourge guy, right? Played by Dinklage's voice, which is a dastardly dude that wants to eat the world, right? And kill everybody and annihilate. And then you've got these two groups that have to unite that are sort of aligned, but don't really know each other. And I don't know if anybody has talked about this or written about this, but the Autobots are urban, right? They're coming from Brooklyn, they're vehicles, they're in the cities and in the streets. And then you've got the Maximals that are almost rural, right? They're in the woods and they're animals and they've got it and they're different, very different, but they've got to line up. And your character has this like very deep and wise humility that kind of drives it forward, but they got to get together. They're very different. They're from different eras, different times, different places, but they got to get together to fight this common enemy or they're fucked. And it's I think a really important broader context for what's happening in America right now, what's happening facing an evil threat like Putin, and what it's like to face, autocracy and fascism around the world. Have you thought about that since we talked about it and since the film?
We're always kind of fascinated by, at least I am, and more so these days, because existentially, we've never been more threatened by our own kind of not taking responsibility for our civic duties, which is to understand fundamentally the difference between a republic, a democratically elected republic, which honors the rule of law, and an entity that is purely based on power, on a lust for power. And then there's all these other sublusts that come with power, which is wealth, which is the ability to crush your enemies, the ability to, but there's no ideology to any of those things, which makes them, and that's what's coming into full relief especially in the last 6 to 7 or 8 years, because we now have had a leader in our own country that aspires to something that's completely ideological, unideological. There's no ideology to Trump except the accumulation of power and wealth, and you don't even know which one is more important to it. But it's purely narcissistic. There's no nuance to it. There's no humanity to it. There's no compassion to it. There's nothing that reflects the greater angels that we have been pointed to aspire to, all of the things that all of our religions have been built to kind of address, which is love thy neighbor, which is, self-sacrifice, which is all these. I mean, we're talking about a guy who thinks a guy like you who put on the uniform and did a few tours is a fucking sucker for, like, why would you put yourself in harm's way when you can sit down and maybe work for me and I'll pay all your bills and you'll live in a cushy place, maybe piss into a gold toilet. What the fuck are you thinking, man? And if we lived in a world where there was nobody like you who even has some sort of fractional impulse to sacrifice himself for something bigger and greater than you, which is this concept of keeping a country free and at liberty and being able to aspire to all of the kindnesses that come with that promise, then we'd be fucked. And then you see this guy come along and he's put us in this place where we're inches away because of the lust for the power that his entire party has now been turned on to. If we could just maintain power, and all we got to do is just basically say this fucking rapist scumbag guy who steals fucking nuclear secrets and probably sells them to the Saudis for $2 billion for his fucking son-in-law. If we could just stay in line with him, we can maintain the power. What we're gonna do with it? Who gives a fuck? We got it. And we get to fucking tell people what they can read and what they can listen to and who they can love and who they can't love, and that they're gonna fucking get raped at 10 years old and carry that baby. We get to listen to Sharia fucking law, which is so far. I've gone on a tangent, Paul. You asked me a simple question about Transformers, and I had no idea it was gonna end up being this. But basically, Omicron, is that his name?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
The character that Peter Dinklage plays has no ideology. He only has this insatiable need for power and to destroy and to break down because and it's because he's essentially fucking weak, and he has zero core, and he's never been given the ability to understand what love is, and what friendship is, and what generosity is, and what loyalty is. And if you're telling me that those things aren't important, and there's a lot of people in this motherfucking country right now that are trying to tell me that those things are useless because you can't quantify them and you can't put a monetary value on them, fuck you. I'm coming for you.
See, I was gonna say at some point, okay, here's the ball, run with it. But you're good at grabbing it and running with it on your own, and that's part of why I love you, and part of why I know your fans and people around this country love you, because you say what you feel, what's in your heart, but you also channel a lot of what I think other people are feeling and saying. I think it's beyond partisanship, it's beyond geography. There's a part of the film that I think is really relevant, which is that a huge part of the early part of the film is people saying, hey, this threat is real. Hey, it's coming. Wake the fuck up. It's this dangerous. It's this big. And I feel like some of us have been in that position really since Trump started to rise, and identifying the national security threat component as the biggest part of that. And now, finally, I think people are starting to understand that he's not just a political story, he's a national security story, and he's endangering our national security. And it's about, in my view, hopefully bouncing off bottom now, because I've long said, I don't think we'll have respect in the world like we used to until he does a perp walk, until he's in handcuffs or he's behind bars. And people used to laugh at me. They say, oh, it's not possible. I said, look, this guy is so sloppy that it's not only possible, it's likely. It's just a matter of whether or not we bring the charges, whether or not we put him in front of the law. And I'm actually, it's a sad moment, but I'm encouraged to see that he's got to stand there. He's got to get digitally fingerprinted. He's going to have to stand up in court. He might still get the nomination and win, but there may be more charges to come. And I think at least now, more than during the Nixon era, more than other times, as low as it is, there's also this power of hope that maybe we can hold him accountable, or at least we're trying to hold him accountable. And I think that is absolutely vital right now. But I wonder, Ron, for you, we talked about this last time you were on the show was way back in 2020. What were you thinking and feeling when you saw this unfold yesterday, where he's, got his motorcade going to the courthouse? You've always been really good at kind of sizing him up as a human and breaking that part of him down. But what were you thinking and feeling when you saw that scene unfold?
I'm still holding my breath because simply, there's the possibility of all the things you just listed. He very well still could delay this meeting with destiny long enough so that he does in fact become the front runner and does in fact run. And there's zero possibility he's going to win in my estimation. But as long as he's at large, he's a threat. And as long as he's a threat, then vigilance doesn't get a chance to take a nap or take a 5-minute smoke break. You have to be on it 24/7. So you and I had a really interesting exchange the night of the premiere, where I said to you, so far the system is holding.
Right.
As much as he's been an assault on everything that's decent about how this country was conceived and what we ultimately are supposed to aspire to. He's been an assault on every single facet of it. And his heroes are scumbags, like Putin and Duarte and, all these, punk thug, dime store Mussolinis. And that's who he wants to be. He wants to be king. He wants to have unlimited power. He wants to do everything that's the antithesis of the United States. And the reason why my heart breaks, in particular, is because of how big his following is. Mm-hmm. I'm mad at him, but I'm heartbroken that there are that many people in this country that don't understand what this country is, or that would have this country be something in the image of that ugliness. And as long as we live with that existential threat, we need to be really, really vigilant. We cannot celebrate the perp walk until, you know, he gets the sentence and he's put away, and everybody realizes you try this shit in this country, this is what's going to happen. Yep. And it's going to happen regardless of how long it takes, or what the sausage making looks like, or how lugubrious it is, or how inexact it is, or how unswift it is. Regardless of all that, we need to act. And I actually think that there have been conversations in high levels, and this is another thing you and I kind of exchanged on that night, where they said, there's no way we can still expect to have a country and let this pass. We have to get him. We have to get him, no matter what it takes. We have to get him. We have to bring him down. We have to send a message that you try this shit in the United States of America, which is a country of laws and a country of men and a country of representative government, and you're going to go in a put away for a long time in a very dark place where you have no longer a voice. And that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think that's it. And we have to stop him because he's still a threat. I mean, it's Omicron in the film. Like, until he is defeated or neutralized or eliminated in whatever way is required, he's a threat. And I think, to your point, he has this very deep following. And that's why I say, it's not just about whether or not he wins. Oh, did I lose you there, Ron?
I'm still here.
Okay, sorry. I'm having a couple of technical issues here before. So I may have to, can I pause for a second?
Sure, I still hear and see you, but
okay,
you can
looks
pause
like
and do
the evil gods are gonna make me upgrade, otherwise we're gonna run out. So let me pause.
I see.
Let me pause here for a second.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I should be able to knock this out.
You're an engineer, aren't you?
But I'm fucking everything, dude. I'm everything. All right, hold on. You know what I'm actually gonna have to do? This is gonna be fun. I'm gonna actually put in my credit card while we do this. This is amazing.
You want to borrow mine? I still got a couple of credits on mine.
I owe you beers after last week. I don't want you to pay for anything. I think I got it. That should do it. Let's see if this works. If this works, this is like one of my best technical challenges yet.
This is awesome. I love
this is independent media, man.
You talk about the sausage making.
This is independent media. Okay, yes. Zoom, you can have my $15, you fuckers. Okay, $15. There you go. Okay.
So Zoom is not a public
has unlimited
service.
Meeting minutes. Okay, so we're back at it here.
We just outed Zoom. It's not a public service after all.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking bastards. All right, so I'll edit that, or maybe we won't. I don't know. Whatever you want.
No, I think we keep that fucking in.
But
as long as your credit card numbers aren't.
Yeah, as long as the Russians probably have this all anyway. So
anyway,
the good part is I don't have much to take, so they won't go far with that card. But this point about he has a following that is deep and loyal, and whether or not he wins, they are still angry, have deep grievance, are well organized, and have guns. And the thing I wanted to ask you to talk about, that we talked about a bit last week when we hung out, is this is a time, like in the movie, where unlikely voices have to rise up and try to join the fight in whatever way they can. I made this plea to you because I think people need independent voices, meaning especially voices that aren't in politics. Arnold Schwarzenegger has been really resonant lately. People like The Rock can have influence. You are, I think most of your fans have no idea what your politics are. They love you in large part for the characters you play, which are often tough and smart and populist and real and authentic, right? In many ways, I think you're a better fit for a populist candidate from New York than Trump is. But you have an ability to connect with people that are deep red and deep blue. And I saw it when we were out at the bar, when we were walking in, getting in the car, people are watching the kind of people that come up to you. And I said this to you, I'm like, it is literally a cross section of America. And I've seen few people who have that kind of connection. So how do you think about your audiences. Like when I think about Sons of Anarchy, it's like I feel like half the characters in that, if they were real, would be at January 6th, right? I mean, how do you think about your audience in particular, and how you might uniquely be able to reach people that frankly nobody else can get to, except for some of these folks that let's use Trump supporters in particular. You might be able to get to Trump supporters in a way that literally nobody else can.
I think ultimately I travel all over the country and all over the world, and I very rarely meet assholes or mean-spirited people. I meet people who are smiling and who want to hug and who want to put their arm around me and want to take a selfie and who want to talk about. And my conclusion to all of this is I see all this ugliness on the news because I'm a news junkie and I'm a political junkie. And I understand, that kind of fringe of society that is ready to take their grievances and actualize them. But I think that there's this kind of fundamental desire deep in people's hearts, whether they be red or blue or whatever their thing is, to be patriotic, to love this country, and to aspire to justice, to aspire to a level playing field. So, I basically tailor all of my messages whenever I do tweet, and I tweet a lot less frequently than I used to, but I basically tailor it all to identifying beautiful things about this beautiful country and saying, you can have this if you just take a moment to understand what you got to do to help make it happen. That's what representative government is. Nobody's going to sit there and wave a magic wand and take all your problems away. You're going to have to do that. But you're going to have to do it in a way where you don't feel like you're the victim. You don't feel like you don't use the excuse of like, well, it's me against them, and so fuck them. That's where this grievance politics emanates from. And but I feel that there's a fundamental desire in the hearts of men and women to be better, to be more in line with what they read in their Bible, what they hear in their Sunday sermons. And I basically just tailor all of my messages to encourage that exploration. And that's the answer to your question.
I love it. I love it. I've got one final question for you, and you've been generous enough to stick around for our Patreon members for a little extra content. So thank you to them for making this show happen.
And thank you to your credit card for allowing me extra time to take.
Yes. Yeah, literally. They help pay for this extended interview. Otherwise, we would have cut off about 5-10 minutes ago. But
you like to kick us when we're down, don't you, Zoom?
Yeah, Ron. To that point, you're kind of the real tough guy, right? Like, and a lot of the folks that watch your shows and watch your films and follow you, it's aspirational. They want to be Hellboy. They want to be Optimus Primal. They want to be the guys from Sons of Anarchy. They want to be tough. They want to be leaders. And you have an ability to kind of capture that feeling. But this is also a time when a lot of people are running for president. It could be totally disruptive. There are new candidates entering almost every day. And the mayor in New York is in trouble and not popular. I asked you this a couple of years ago, but I'll ask you again because you did, I think, technically or untechnically run for president once before. Will you run for anything? Will you run for mayor of New York as I hope an independent?
Yes, no. It's the short answer to that. And I know this for a fact because I did flirt with it enough to know that's not what I want to do. There are people who are way better at administering an organized kind of a society, it's so tough and tedious to
There are a
run a
lot of
government.
people who are worse too, though, Ron. I mean, you can't be worse than De Blasio. Adams looks like he's going to be De Blasio 2.0. I mean, this is, frankly, it's a low bar. And if it's like, Transformers, I know you don't want to do it, but maybe your country and the world needs you to do it.
Well, I'm doing the best I can, Paul, and I feel as though my best contribution to to I mean, when you run for an office, your influence on people is real, but very limited and very finite in terms of the amount of time that you get to do it. Even if you're president of the United States,
Hmm.
And we live in a country where, the only reason we got Bush was because of Clinton. The only reason we got Obama was because of Bush. We go like, we do this.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that, whatever motherfucker comes along and is able to be charismatic enough and capture the imagination and the hearts of men enough is temporary.
Hmm.
What I do is permanent. I mean, these conversations with you and I, which are offshoots of some cultural contribution that I happen to be lucky enough to be a part of, which is a movie, which is basically shining a light on all of the excesses of humanity and all of the best parts of humanity. That's what movies do.
Hmm.
And I've said this many, many times. When I was a kid growing up in New York, there were a million ways to learn how to be a man. But the thing that I learned most of what I wanted to aspire to as a man came from watching movies with my old man.
Hmm.
I learned how to walk like the Duke. I learned how to put up my dukes like Jimmy Cagney. I learned how to fight for the little guy like Jimmy Stewart. I learned how to be self-sacrificing like Audie Murphy. I learned the things that are important to use as my values of how I walk and talk and what my swagger is from the exploration of the humanities. And it comes in many ways, but movies to me have always been the most romantic of all of them because, they're beautiful to watch. They're very moving. They're full of sound and fury. They have tremendous narratives, music, all these things. And audiences crave going to a place where they could be moved and maybe even have a catharsis and walk out going, I just feel like I need to make a little bit of an adjustment based on what I saw. And so I'm in that world already. And then I've chosen to augment it by engaging in social media and letting people know, dude, here's where we go off the rails and here's where we don't. And I can't do that as a politician. I don't want to do that as a politician. I love the lane I'm in, and I feel like I'm having as profound an influence as I ever want to have just doing what I do.
You are having a profound influence. I am honored to call you a friend. I was going to ask you if you had a Father's Day message, but I think you kind of gave it, unless there's more you want to add, because Father's Day is coming up. I think it's an important time for us to think about what fatherhood looks like and what real manhood looks like, and the humility and the love that you've shown me and so many other people, I think, is a great example of it. And much of it is a contrast to Trump, who is not only the shittiest president, but seems to be the shittiest father around. But I want to thank you for all you're doing, man, for your example, for your friendship. I do hope you'll run. I know you won't. If Optimus Primal and maybe Hellboy and any other characters had a message for America this Father's Day, what would it be?
It would be to find deep in yourself what you can do to reach out a hand and pull somebody up and show them how beautiful life can be. That's what my dad did. My dad put aside his dreams to be a dad. And so in doing so, there was this tremendous self-sacrifice. And if you know me, Paul, and you know, I just sent you a script about something that, you know, I'm hoping to do together with you. To me, the most moving single thing that can be explored in any form of literature or music or film or any of the arts or any of our discussions is the concept of self-sacrifice, is the concept of somebody who puts their own safety aside for the greater good. And this is why I'm so pissed off at Trump and at the people who have decided to canonize him and use him as a means to manipulate people who aren't having such a good time, and make them angry and make them, you know, do violent, stupid, ugly things and hate their neighbors. You know, I just went off on a tangent and I forgot where I was.
No, it's it, man. I think you buttoned it up well. I mean, I think Trump is useful in that he is the anti-role model. And
Yep.
I'm able to say to my kids a lot. There's a couple times when I said to my son the other day, he lied about something. And I said, you know who lies? Trump. And that gets him. He knows he doesn't want to be like Trump. And in contrast, there were many times where I think Obama was a great role model and demonstrated love and demonstrated humility and did the right thing and cared about people. And so it's helpful to have these examples and anti-examples that we can point our kids to. But you are a great example, and you were very generous to my boy and to my friends, and you always been generous to everybody. And New York loves you, America loves you, the world loves you. Congratulations on the success of Transformers. I hope they spin it off and do a whole series on Maximals, not just as a fan of the franchise, but as a fan of you, but also as a fan of the franchise. I mean, I think it would be a no-brainer for them to fucking launch this off. It's just awesome. And I can't wait to see everything else you do and hopefully to see you again in person, my friend.
Very soon, my friend. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for your enduring, wonderful camaraderie and collegiality and friendship. I love you, Paul.
I look forward to getting the glasses soon. Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
Stay vigilant.
Yeah, I'll send you the website.
Great.
Your credit card will come in handy once again.
Thanks, my friend. Stay vigilant.
See you.